So the first thing you have to do now is you have to create a folder. To create a folder, you have to right click, go to new, and you click on folder. I want to name my folder tutorial. Then after doing that, I go to my code editor, Sublime Text. In case you don't know how to download, in case you don't have Sublime Text, there is a video in the description below on Sublime Text. It will guide and help you on how to download and install. So let's go to our file, then open folder, desktop, then locate the folder we just created, which is tutorial. Click on select folder. So having done that, I want to create a new file inside the tutorial folder. I hover over tutorial folder, right click, new, then I go to file to save the name. I'll prefer to call mine index.html. It is very important to end with HTML, although you can end with HTML or HTML, but make sure it ends with HTML or HTML. You can change the first name. I decided to use index. You can use any name you want, but always note that the extension has to be in .html or .htm. So click on save. So now tag successfully saved. So the first thing we want to do is this now. I want to explain the opening and the closing tag. Firstly, this is an HTML opening tag and this is a closing tag. The major difference within the opening and the closing tag is that there is a / and then the name of the tag. That's what actually closes the closing tag of the HTML. So whatsoever we are going to write or code must come in between the opening HTML tag and the closing HTML tag. So in between that, we are going to have our head element. And in between the opening tag of the head element and the closing tag, we are going to have our meta tag. UTF-8. If you can notice, the meta tag does not have a closing tag, so instead it's a self-closing tag. Meta character set UTF-8. This understands almost all the old symbols in our world, so it is very advisable to always include this in your head element. Then after this, we have our title tag. As the name sounds, title, it has the opening and the closing tag. In between it, let me just write tutorial. I want to save this and preview it in my browser. So I just need to click on file. I can either press save here or just use Ctrl S. Then I want to preview it in my browser. I right click and click open in browser. You can see now that the title name is very visible here. Let me minimize this tab so you see clearly. Okay, now so the title is tutorial and you can clearly see it here, tutorial. Having said that, let's go straight to our body tags. The body tag now, whatsoever must come in this white blank space must actually be in between the opening and the closing tag of the body. So I want to walk you on heading tags. So the first tags we are going to do today is the heading tags inside the body element, in between the opening and the closing tag, the H1 tag. For short, is H1. but the meaning of H1 is heading 1. The heading tags have about 6 headers, H1, H2, H3. So let me copy and paste it 6 times. And change the name. So after you write in 2 places, hold Ctrl and move your cursor to your desired location. So you save that. And let me just write hello world. Let's copy and paste that here. Save. And then let's refresh. Wow, you can now see now that the heading 1 hello world is bigger than the heading 2. The heading 2 is bigger than the heading 3. The heading 3 is bigger than the heading 4, the heading 5, and so on. So it has clearly explained now that the higher the tags, the higher the number of heading, the higher their sizes. But the lower they are, the lower their sizes. That's all for heading tags, because it's very, very important. Your heading tag can be found in your blog sites, in your e-commerce site, and virtually almost all your websites. So having said that, there's something I want to walk you through now. It's on block elements and inline elements. Block elements are elements that appear up and down, meaning that they don't appear side by side, irrespective of how you code them. Let me give you a brief example. This H2 tag now, let me put it beside the H1 tag. Although looking at it, it ought to appear side by side with it. But when I refresh the browser, you see it still appears under it. This is because it's a block element. So the heading tags are block elements, meaning that they don't appear side by side, irrespective of if you write them side by side. But inline elements, they are elements that appear side by side, even if you seem to write them up and down. So let me give you a brief example of that. Let me see the U tag, meaning underline. Let me write, okay, hello world. Let me just write this and paste here. Now you can clearly see that irrespective of how I wrote them up and this one down, it actually showed or previewed in the same line. That is because these are inline elements. So we have a lot of inline elements. We have the U tag, which also means underline. We have the bold tag, which primary work is to make your text stronger or appear more sharper. You can see now, hello world, it's looking more brighter than this. Instead of you using your B, you can still use your strong tag. Your strong tag does the same work as your B tag, bold tag. So you can see this. Save it. It is exactly the same thing. There is no difference at all with it. So now, having said this, let's go to our table tag. The table tag is a block element, which means they won't appear in the same line. They automatically go down. It has an opening and a closing tag. And in between the opening and the closing tag of your table, we have our table row. It also has an opening and a closing tag. So in between these, the headings of our table, we have what we call the table heading. I just want about 3 table heading. So I'll be quick with that. So let me name the first one SN. The second one, just in name. The third one, let me go with number. So let me save this Ctrl S, and then refresh it. Now you can clearly see we have SN name and number. This is the first row, which is this. This is the first table heading, the second table heading, and the third table heading. So in the next row after this, let me open another row. So the first one that is coming here will not be table heading, but rather table data, because I want to fill in the data of this table heading I just listed above. So number 1, name, let me go with John. Number, let me just go with a random number. Let's save and then refresh. Now you can see that they are perfectly aligned to their corresponding table heading. Since you have 3 table heading, you must definitely have 3 table data, unless you increase the code span, which is quite advanced when you are using CSS. So let's go to the 3rd table row. Let me just copy this and then paste it. Let me edit the values to even though. Save and then refresh. You can see how perfectly aligned they are in this part of the code. That is because this is the first table row, the first table heading, the second table heading, the third table heading, and this is the next table row. This is now the first table data, the second table data, and the third table data. This is now the 3rd table row, the first table data, the second table data, and the third table data. So that's all for table. But if you want to put border at the side of the table, you can just simply write border, save, and then you refresh. Now you can clearly see that there is a border in here. With CSS, you will be able to decorate this so it looks more pleasing visually. So after the table, I want to teach you how to add an image. So to add image, first note that the image tag is an inline element, which means it will appear side by side. So let's write the tag, and it's also a self-closing tag, just like how I mentioned for the meta tag. I will explain this in the chief. Okay, now, so the source is asking, where is the source of this image? For us to do that, let's go to our file manager, our file explorer, then go to, just look for a picture. I want to use this one. Let me copy, desktop, locate my folder tutorial, and then I want to simply paste. Good. So I can close this, and then here I able to see clearly the image, thumb_sublime.png. So that's the source. I'm going to write it here, thumb_sublime.png. Save and then preview. You can see that the image is clearly showing here. So the alt tag is, for instance, if there is the image for some reason is not showing, the alternate tag helps to describe what that image is. So I'll just write in Sublime image. Save. You won't be able to see it here, but let me say there is a mistake, there is a typo. You see what happens? Instead of the image showing, since there is a typo, the Sublime image, the alternate, actually reads out this text, and it's also helpful for on-screen readers. In case you have software that literally reads the whole screen, it helps to identify or read out that image that ought to be there. So another thing to take note is that, for instance, if thumb_sublime.png is not in the same, if thumb_sublime.png is not in the same directory as your index, let me say it is in a new folder which is image. Let me just move this. Cut. Paste. So that I have moved thumb_sublime to the image folder. So let's preview that. So it's not in the same directory as your index, but rather is inside the image folder. Let's try to preview that if it will show. You can see that the image will not show because you just told it to check in the same directory as the index.html. And since it's not present, for you to actually locate this, you have to place the folder name first, which is image, then /sublime.png. Ctrl S to save. Then when we refresh, you can see now that it's working perfectly. So let me say I want to adjust the width of this image. I can simply come here and write width. Let me say 400. Save. Refresh. But you can see that it's working perfectly. So depending on the kind of size you want, you can actually toggle here, increase or reduce the size. So that's all about the image. This is one way to link an image. If you have an image from an external URL, you can simply write it here. Let me say the image is HTTPS Let me say the image is actually located in this particular URL. It will definitely preview that here. So this is an external URL that you are trying to preview the source from. But since it is not this, it is actually, we're actually previewing from our local folder. You have to write this. So if it's an external URL, you can just replace it with this. So that's that for image. So let's go straight now to the input. This is a very important part of almost any website that requires user details. We start with form. It has an opening and a closing tag, and everything must fall in between. Any input field or your input tag must fall in between the opening and the closing tag of the form element. So let's start with the input, the basic input. So input, the type. I want my type to be text. Sorry, that's in capital letter. Let me put it in lowercase. Text. Save and preview. You can see that there is clearly an input bar here, but since I want it to go down, let me just break it from here. There is a self-closing tag we call break. It actually enables us to go a step below or anything after it to appear down. So let me just break it again so it goes one more step downwards. Save. Now yes, we can clearly see it here. So input type text, and let me say I want to properly introduce what this input is all about. Let me say I want to put a label tag. A label tag, yes, for instance, a label tag, and I say this is masking. This is name. refresh it. Now you can clearly see that the name is standing right in front of the input tag. That is because the label tag is actually an inline element. The input is also an inline element. So to further give information about this kind of input, I can decide to write placeholder, enter name, enter your name here, save it and then preview it. You can clearly see now that there is a text here writing enter your name. That's the actual word of the placeholder. When you type, it actually disappears. So that is the importance of a placeholder. It furtherly explains what that tag is all about. So let me go to the next one, password, for example. That's when you have a form, a login form, and you want your users to input their password. So the next input, the type will be password, and the placeholder should be enter your password. Here, save, preview. You can see that they are all inline elements, so they are appearing at a perfectly straight line. So enter your password here. Anything I type here actually becomes hidden. That's because you set the type to be password. Let me say I want to request my user's number. The simple thing you just is that you change the password to number. So the type also number. This would only collect or accept numbers. Enter your number here. Save and preview that. So it will not accept words, it will only accept numbers. So that's all about it. There is a lot of input type we can use. We have dates, we have radius and checkbox, and so much more. So let me say I want to highlight your gender. Let me just copy this, paste it, and let me say gender. So your input type will now be radio. The name would be gender. No need of placeholder. We don't use placeholder while type is, you just have to put a label at it front to indicate. Male. Let's copy and paste this. Female. Rather not say. So let's save this and then preview it. Now you can clearly see that this is the radio button. You can just select only one. You can either select male, select female, or select rather not say. Just make sure they all have the same name. As long as they have the same name, you're only permitted to select one of them. So that's about the radio box. So let me say we have another type, which is checkbox. Okay. Let me say you offer different courses. You want your user to select as many things as possible. Say courses. The type now becomes a checkbox. You don't really need to give it any special name, just remove the name from there. So let me say math, English, let me say social studies. Save, Now you can see that we can actually select more than one here. That's the work of the checkbox, to select as many as you want. If you want a particular one to be checked, you can simply just, let me see, one of them is compulsory. You can just simply check this automatically by writing checked. Save it and then you preview. You can now see that the math is automatically checked. So that's everything about your input tag. The next thing on our list is the button. The button, let me use submit. Input type submit. Submit. Save. You can find your submit here. So that's about the button. So if you want to check if your user has actually imputed any text at all, if he or she has not, you actually want to print out a message saying, please fill out this field. You can just simply use the required. In as many places as you want. So let me say I click on the submit. You can see that it's actually saying please fill out this field. So if probably you want to reset everything your user has entered, you want your user to have the option to reset everything. Like there was an error or so. Let me use reset. Save it. Just enter random numbers here. You can see that it actually clears audio input field. That's the work of the reset. It is very important depending on your test. So these are the basic knowledge of the input tags, the image tag, the table tag, and there is also what we call the paragraph. The paragraph tag. The paragraph tag is actually a block element. Save. It will automatically come down. Hello world. So there is really nothing much about the paragraph tag. It is the same as a block element. Another thing you have to take note for your code to be more readable and better understandable is actually the comment. To comment in HTML, you can simply hold your control and press your / or you can decide to write it manually. Just know that whatsoever is in between your comment is an unexecutable line of code, meaning that you are just writing that code to explain what you were doing in that line of code as of that time. Let me say I want to explain here now. For courses, the browser will not render this. It is for programmers to be able to understand. Let me say probably you sold your work to someone else and the person wants to edit some things. The comment will actually help the person to really understand what you were doing here. And if probably you left a code for about a year and you are coming back to it, it also helps you to know what you actually were doing as of that time. So the comment is very, very important. That's another thing to take note of. Another thing I want to explain to you is a tag that is really almost forgotten in HTML, the marquee tag. Save it and let's preview. You can see now the marquee tag actually go around. So that's the work of the marquee tag. So that's quite a lot today. So please, thank you for watching till this part. We are really grateful you